I've got so many former students that, in fact, we just had dinner with a former student of mine that's over in Arkansas, and she graduated 20 years ago, and she actually had my wife as a math teacher as well, so she had both of us, and I just think about kids like her. She's not a kid anymore, she's 40 years old, but she told us when we had dinner, she said, you know, I don't play my trombone anymore, but what you taught us in band is the reason I'm a doctor, and that really was heartwarming, and it's just exciting to still hear those kind of stories.
Back when I was 1 year old, my dad and my uncle, who were both band directors, had the wild idea to get into the music business. Bill Palin is my uncle, and Dan, which is my father, they bought a little sheet music store, Will James Music Service, in downtown Springfield.
You know, starting a new business in any era, it's scary. There's a lot of unknowns.
I would say they probably had those days like, what are we doing?
I'm sure there was a sense of how are we going to grow choral music into, you know, something that can sustain not just our family now, but our families as they grow, and maybe even other families.
It didn't start out where we were today.
For me as a band director, just to step off the podium into a very well-established company, Palen Music Center, back in 2011 was scary enough. It took a lot of bravery.
They had a vision and they had passion, and they were like, we're gonna make it work.
We didn't know we'd be able to survive or anything. We didn't have much money. We went into the store with the understanding that if we did not make it, that Dan would share his school teaching side with me. But luckily, we made a go of it.
So at the heart of this company are band directors. Dan and Bill, both band directors. Brett, band director. So we have this in the DNA of the company.
I still have people say to me, your dad, Dan Palin, made the biggest difference in my life of any teacher I ever had.
How we got our first customers in band were on the weekend. When
I was a young kid, band directors came in every Saturday.
There weren't any roadmen going to schools like there are now. A lot of the music directors would come in and they were looking for music. Then we knew right off that we wanted to expand the store and get more into music instruments.
No manufacturers would talk to my dad and my uncle. Finally, after much persistence, one company that would give them the right to sell their products. It wasn't a large company, it was Wurlitzer, and they won over some accounts and started renting instruments.
Dan was a person that wanted to be in charge of everything. You agree with that?
My dad's more of a risk taker, kind of the rebel of the family, a very astute businessman. He was a drill sergeant to a degree, and they would say he was tough as a boot.
Dan was one of the hardest workers I have ever known in my life. He was quick to say what he thought it ought to be and how it ought to work.
Dad had 3 sons, me, my younger brother Dan, and then Brad, who's our youngest brother.
I had the pleasure of knowing them as little boys, Brett, Danny, and Brad. Brett went to the University of Arkansas, was very successful. Danny went to Berklee School of Music in Boston, but they both eventually wound up in the store, and that's when things really kind of started to expand. We had remodeled the downtown location and moved into electronics. So we carried Roland products, which was a big deal. They had added some major lines, Selmer, Gemeinhardt, King, but downtown Springfield, that part of town was not really desirable. Dan Sr. was thinking about the need to grow the business. The way Springfield was growing south, he needed to move and have something that was more conducive to that growth. This particular lot on Raynell Place was vacant and for sale. And I know that he spent at least one night, and if you know Dan, probably more than one night, sitting on the lot vacant before he bought it, counting cars.
I think we started building in about 1989. It was quite a project, you know. It's 27,000 square feet, which back then was probably the largest music store in the country. Dad really didn't have any long-term plan. It was just kind of like one week he said, you know what, I think it's about time, and I'm going to retire, and you're in charge.
We all know Brett, our owner and CEO. Dan was the little brother, and so Dan has really had a heart for the combo side, for the gear side. Dan really helped Brett get the combo side of the business started.
Brett is someone who deeply cares about others, and he shows that not just through his words, but through his actions.
Brett's one of those guys that gives you a ton of freedom. I think he is the huge reason why we've had growth. He's fantastic at assembling teams, finding really good talent that work really well together.
Leadership is about having a vision, going for it, and then people willfully, not out of obligation, but willfully following behind you.
So Brad and Dan and I had been talking about the future of the music industry and how things were headed, and if we wanted to be a relevant music store 10, 20 years from now, we felt like we needed to expand. With the addition of the Columbia store in 1999, we were able to provide an opportunity for someone to step up and manage, for somebody to step up and be a road person.
So when I started, we had Springfield as the flagship store, Columbia, and Joplin as well. Since then, we've added Liberty, we're adding Overland Park, Springdale, St. Louis, .com, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma City, and we've added the Woodland Warehouse as well.
When one category grows, when we expand into a new store and they're successful, all of those things allow us to invest more into other avenues.
So the Palen brothers are great businessmen, great business sense. Outside of the business, they are some of the funniest, enjoyable people to hang out with that you have ever met. Brad, who is the youngest brother, was a huge fan of Star Wars when Star Wars came out, and so he bought the soundtrack, the tape. And one time when Brad didn't know about it, Dan Palin, he took the tape and he taped over the little thingy, and he recorded himself singing the soundtrack. So he just dum 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 da dum dum, and he did the whole thing. He covered up his whole tape singing Star Wars soundtrack. And the next time Brad put it in and he heard that, he was so enraged. He immediately found Dan, started fighting, and they went into this throwdown. That was literally one of the funniest stories. And Dan, just talking about it, would laugh so bad he would cry.
Dan was incredible. Dan was just a really great friend, and I feel like I learned so much more from Dan after he passed, but he was a guy that just had unbelievable grace.
Dan was a great uncle, first and foremost. And he was certainly very special to me and always will be. He has a legacy that will always be in this company.
What was my dad like? He had a loud laugh, an infectious laugh. You know, he made you feel special. He used to come in with his phone in his pocket, just playing a different song every morning to work. There was like a 2-week span where he played Chug-a-Lug by Roger Miller every day. and he'd come in snapping to it and singing it.
You know, he's still missed in this company. He was just a fun person to be around, and loved the company probably more than anybody else, you know. He just loved working here, loved being a part of it, and was excited for what was going on. And it's just a shame that he didn't get to see what's happened, you know, to the fullest extent. Our new initiatives are exciting to us. It's exciting to be in a company that's always pushing the envelope.
When I think of Palen Music Center, I think of growth. We're a company that's continuing to grow, change, and adapt all the time.
KC North is killing it.
The addition of Combo in the Liberty area was a huge win for us, and being able to attract Tyler Shirelli and Merle Alderson, I mean, really top-level talent in that area.
We were able to acquire the space that's 2 doors down and move our repair shop and our road offices over to that new facility.
I'm really proud of our repair staff. We've expanded our shop in Kansas City. We have new ultrasonic tanks in every location now. We have dent machines. We have just all sorts of new tooling. Over the last year, we have repaired more instruments through our shops than ever before. They're just a great group of people who work really hard for this company.
As our school service operation continues to grow, we always need more room for storage and repair, and Oklahoma City is no different. We were so fortunate that the space right next door to our retail shop became available, and that gave our repair team the ability to really spread out and be able to increase what they're able to do on the repair side.
So we're super excited about Overland Park. I mean, that's pretty much what we're talking about right now.
The newest project on the horizon is the new store in Overland Park.
With Overland Park, this is exciting because this is a Kansas store.
The location is certainly our highest traffic location in our chain. It is right next to T-Mobile national headquarters. It's right next to Whole Foods, and we're going to be convenient for people. It's a spectacular storefront.
Our media and marketing team, I feel like, is our secret weapon.
One of the best ways to increase the audience that we are reaching through our social media and video channels is to have multiple voices on camera. We've been able to add lots of specialty channels and unique individuals and personalities.
I wanted to bring influencers into our space and say, here's a blank canvas that's going to allow you to grow and build a fan base that's unique to you. You're doing what you love, and that's what we've got influencers doing across all of our YouTube pages.
Alec had the foresight to say 60 years would be a good marker for a brand change. And we looked at hundreds of logos till we got to the one that we currently have that we're super excited about.
One thing that was really important to me when creating this logo was to honor the past. That store in downtown Springfield in 1963 that my grandpa and his brother started, but also have a modern touch. We're continuing to innovate and update ourselves and rebrand and refresh, and that's something that we aspire to do for a long time.
Boy, I wish that Dan Sr. was around to see the people that we are influencing, the kids' lives that are being changed, the number of employees that are part of this company, 200 employees, the number of locations. I just wish that he could see his vision really taking shape through the daily work of all the employees within Palen Music Center.
Palin has a super bright future because people feel seen and they feel heard.
My hope is to expand upon what we're already doing, I want people to see us as a household brand. I want them to think of us first when they're reaching out for a musical instrument.
We have some amazing people that I get to work with and that I get to work for.
The growth, the moves that are made in the future are going to be positive for people. Nothing's short-sighted, nothing's willy-nilly. We think things out, we plan them out.
I'm just excited for the growth and just all the different stuff that we're gonna do and just scaled up.
I'm excited for the new people that we're gonna reach. There's a lot of people in the world that we haven't reached yet or don't know about us.
My hope for the future is that as a team come even closer together in a unified effort around a mission. I'm excited about future generations of Palin family members as well as Palin employees that I think will carry on this legacy for the next 60 years.